This warm-up video was filmed all in one go, but I've decided to break it down into 3 separate parts because it ended up being quite long. This first section is going to focus on why we warm up and what the good components of a warm-up should be. The next section is about general warm-ups, and the last section is about the specific warm-up, ramping up to your main exercises for the day. So once you finish this video, make sure you check out the others in this series. Hi everyone, welcome back to another deep dive video here on Ready Steady Strong. My name is Mike and I'll be talking today about warm-ups. I want to talk today a little bit about why we do warm-ups, some of the theories behind what a warm-up should contain, whether I agree with those or not, and then I'm going to take you through the kind of warm-up I do myself when I train and what I do with a lot of my clients as well. Before we get there though, I'd like to point out that I did finally bring myself into the modern age and get a Bluetooth microphone. That means I can record things on my new phone and have a bit of a clearer image on my videos. It means I don't have to have a wire running from my microphone all the way over to the stand for my recording. It also means I can do the washing up while I talk you through my video. Obviously, I won't actually be doing that, but it does mean in the future maybe I could do one of those mic'd up workouts that people seem to do on social media now, where I can go through one of my own workouts and talk to you about it while I'm doing it. I'm not sure how much interest there is in that though, so let me know if that's something you'd like to see. I do have to occasionally make some purchases to support these videos that I make and to support the content I make on Instagram as well. And I'm curious to know how I should start to try and make some money back. I don't really want to be one of the kind of creators that has tens of thousands of followers. I don't want to post a load of nonsense just to get views. I want to keep the channel focused on the content that I want to make. So I'm curious to know how you think I can support that. One of the ideas I'm considering at the moment is making some Ready Steady Strong clothing, some merch that you guys can buy. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, if you'd like to work out in Ready Steady Strong t-shirts or, other kind of clothing, and I will consider it. Of course, if you do want to support me without spending any money at the moment, then what you can do is make sure you subscribe and share these videos to your friends. And don't forget, I also sell pull-up and deadlift online program templates. So you can contact me about those either here on YouTube, go to my contact form on my website, which I'll link in the description below, or you can DM me on Instagram as well. But enough about that, let's get on with today's video. So warm-ups have come a long way from the days of just running on a treadmill for 5 minutes or going on a cross trainer for 5 minutes until you feel like your heart rate is up a little bit and you're a little bit sweaty. And yet still to this day, I'll have a client will turn up 5 minutes late for a session, they'll run to get to the gym on time, and then when I talk about going for a warm-up, they'll say, well, why? I'm already warm. This used to happen all the time when I taught exercise classes as well. And it comes from the idea, obviously, the name warm-up implies that the main thing we do is we get you feeling warm and then you're ready to train. But that is not the only reason we do a warm-up. To talk a little bit about why warm-ups are important, I want to talk you through the RAMP warm-up protocol. So the RAMP protocol is a kind of theoretical framework for how a warm-up should be structured. And when I was studying for my degree in strength and conditioning, it was something that we had to know forwards and backwards. And you always had to kind of explain that you were using a RAMP protocol and what each exercise in your warm-up, where that fit within that RAMP protocol. I don't know how popular that is anymore. We'll be talking a little bit about that, but it does highlight some of the other things, some of the other benefits we can get from warming up as well. So the RAMP protocol has 4 steps, 1 for each letter of the word RAMP. The R stands for raise, and this is your standard, your traditional kind of warm-up where you're looking to raise the temperature and raise the heart rate. Very kind of standard cardiovascular type warm-up. And I have some issues with this, which I'll talk about in just a moment. The A in the RAMP protocol stands for activate. And it's often used to refer to kind of activating the key muscle groups that you're going to work on a given day of a program. And maybe some other muscle groups that you know someone is deficient in, maybe they're weak. You're going to activate those muscle groups before you start training. Again, I have some issues with this. We're going to talk a little bit about this as well. The M in RAMP stands for mobilize. The idea is to mobilize the key muscles and joints that need to go through range for the session you're preparing to do, or once again, just areas where you know your client or athlete is deficient in. And P stands for potentiate. Now, this is a process that is very popular and quite well researched as well to suggest that there are ways that we can prepare the nervous system to engage in high force, high speed scenarios and prepare for that and kind of build up to that level of high performance force production. So as I said, this isn't necessarily something I follow religiously, but it is a good way of talking about what the benefits of a warm-up are. As I said, there are some areas of the RAMP protocol that I don't follow religiously, to the textbook, and I'm going to talk a little bit quickly about why. Firstly, the raise. I don't often put people on a kind of heart-raising, treadmill, cross-trainer, 5-minute cardio thing at the beginning of sessions anymore. I just find that with the way that I do the rest of the warm-up in a fairly fast pace, a sensible pace, but fairly fast, the heart rate is going to be raising as you go through those. I think some people have put some heart rate data out there about what happens to your heart rate as you're going through warm-up drills. I think Eric Cressy posted some either on his athletes or just, a study that he found. I can't remember now. But some people have shown the heart rate can start to increase a reasonable amount while you're doing your other aspects of your warm-up. So I think if I have a client who is paying for an hour and I want to get them started in a nice, fairly speedy way into the session, and if I can cut down 1 or 2 minutes, or maybe even 5 minutes, just by kind of smushing some things together and achieving the same result, then I'm going to do that as long as it doesn't sacrifice any quality. Now, if I was doing a conditioning session with someone where their heart rate was really important as a parameter for the rest of the session, then I would probably follow the raise part of the warm-up more religiously. Moving on to the A for activate. Again, this is something where, I probably still do a lot of things that would be classed as activation, but I'm a little bit less confident throwing the term activation around. The problem is we have a bit of a narrative within fitness that muscles can be underactive or inactive. And that doesn't really fit with our understanding of how movement occurs. If a muscle performs a function and we ask the body to do that function, chances are that muscle is going to work. So for example, if I need to go up on my tiptoes, I can't really have underactive calves. My calves are going to work in that movement. And yes, they may be weak, and it may be that because they're weak, some of the force requirement comes from the other supporting muscles, but I'm not really activating anything. Likewise, the common one is glutes. Everyone wants to kind of activate their glutes. And often, there are other muscle groups that can contribute to things like hip extension, where the glutes work quite a lot. But the glutes probably are still working. You may just not feel them. And this is where the idea of being able to feel a muscle is sometimes a little bit overrated. So long story short, I don't fully believe in this concept of activation, but I still do some kind of activation style exercises because there are other things that we might be achieving in that so-called activation phase. Number one, if we have a muscle group that is weak or is coming back from injury, or it's recently been undergoing a lot of stress in training, then doing a light loaded exercise for that muscle group in the warm-up might just help us slowly kind of increase the load that muscle can tolerate. If it's an area where we frequently experience pain in the past or discomfort, then using it in kind of a low stress environment may just start to dampen down some of the kind of stress reaction that we might get from working that muscle. Lastly, if it's a whole movement pattern that we're struggling with, let's say like moving the shoulders in a rowing type exercise, if I practice some of that in the warm-up, I may not be activating the upper back muscles, but what I might be doing is practicing and rehearsing my ability to move my shoulder blades through that rowing motion. So we may not be activating, but we may be slowly ramping up the force requirements for a muscle. We may be decreasing some of the stress reaction around that muscle, and we might be rehearsing better movement patterns. Mobilization and potentiation, I have no problem with either of those. I think they are, pretty useful reasons to do those things in the warm-up. We'll be talking a little bit about what I use for those as well. And the only thing I would say is that I don't use potentiation religiously with every client. I probably should, and it is something where I'm coming around to the idea that, everyone needs to do exercises in their program that involve some kind of explosive intent or some kind of demand to move quickly. Because sometimes in day-to-day life, we need to do that. Everyone needs to be a little bit explosive to get up out of a deep sofa or to step up onto a curb or, jog for the bus. Doesn't matter whether you're training to be a sprinter or an athlete or whether you're, just training for a bit of extra bone density. If we can do some jumping, landing, speed type work, throwing, then we probably should. The reason why I don't do as much of that has something to do with, one of the later stages in my warm-up process, which I will talk about, and I'll come back to that at the time. And it also, once again, comes down to me probably trying to save a little bit of time and also reduce a little bit of friction with clients who are maybe newer to the gym or less confident in the gym, and they're not as comfortable jumping around, throwing things around in front of all the other gym members. Now, that is a choice I've made. No client has ever come to me and said, I don't want to do potentiation stuff. It's definitely something that I need to start doing probably with all of my clients. At the moment, I mostly do it with my athletic clients. But yeah, that's just an insight to how my kind of training practice is developing over time. And, opinions change in the gym. We should, over time, have a kind of evolving mindset to learn new things and try new things in the gym. So I've been talking a lot about ramp there and my feelings on it. The main purpose of that is just to say there are lots of reasons why we should do a warm-up. There are lots of components of a warm-up beyond just, doing the 5-minute cardio bit. So let's talk a little bit now about how I apply that in my warm-ups. Just a reminder that this is part 1 in a 3-part series. The next video is going to talk about general warm-ups, and the last part in the series will talk about ramping up your weight for your first exercise. Make sure you check those out, and don't forget to like and subscribe.